So Epiphany is actually on the 6th of January, not quite yet, which will be the 13th day of Christmas, or the day after, the 12th day of Christmas. And it celebrates the visit of the wise men. And today's the closest Sunday, so we have the Matthew reading today. The wise men are only in Matthew's Gospel, nowhere else, none of the other Gospels. We three kings of Orient are, says the carol. But as you may have well heard said before, there weren't three of them, they weren't kings, and they didn't come at Christmas. Even though we have names for the three of them, Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar, these names only appeared centuries later. Matthew doesn't say how many there were. And there were Magi, the priestly caste of Zoroastrian religion, of Persia, which is roughly Iran now. And they weren't rulers or kings. And the fact that Herod wanted to get rid of any child under 2 years indicates that the Magi came quite a time after the birth, arriving maybe a year or so after seeing the star. But whoever they were, and however many there were, they came. And they came because of a prophecy or a prediction, not within Judaism, but within an ancient Persian religion, something more like astrology in our minds. What they saw in the sky pointed them to Israel. Have the next slide, please. Over Christmas, we had a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. There's a picture of it here. The line between the two planets at the bottom, Jupiter the larger one, Saturn behind, there is the International Space Station just going between the two as a sort of coincidence. In 7 to 6 BC, there was also a conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, and in the year after, there was a conjunction of Mars with both of those planets, leading to suggestions, which go back as far as the astronomer Kepler, that these might have been what prompted the Magi's journey. We don't know. Whatever they saw in the sky was significant enough to send them off on a long journey, probably a couple of thousand kilometers, to see a newborn king, whom they expected to be the King of the Jews. Next slide, please. Strange to think that these outsiders, not of God's chosen people, should have had the dedication to set off on this journey. What would it take you to make you travel that far without trains or cars or planes, a couple of thousand miles? Camels are not comfortable to ride on from experience. Would a prophecy send you off? You'd feel a bit daft if you'd gone all that way and there was nothing there. And yet sometimes we do need to set out in faith when God calls. Next slide. After the shepherds, the Magi were the first, among the first certainly, to hear, to acknowledge Jesus. They recognized him when others did not. Herod had not even heard about this new king. We sometimes try and limit God's actions to those that we consider in. He'd only work among those of our faith, those who acknowledge our creed, those who are saved. But God often doesn't seem to be constrained in this way at all. He seems to work within whoever is open to him. In however strange a way, God led these Magi, and they did actually find Jesus, gave him their gifts and worshipped him. So it's a new year, and Happy New Year to you all. We have been so constrained this past year by the pandemic, as well as anxious and lonely, that a new beginning seems a good idea. There is still some darkness to come with the current surge in the virus, and it being a while before the vaccination becomes widespread. But there is light too. In the world, there's the prospect of our lives returning to normal. There is also the light of Christ, which we're reminded of every Christmas, coming in a small and humble way, but changing the world. Wise men and wise women still seek him.